Hello and welcome back. Welcome to my first hobby podcast of 2026. I am so excited. I have a lot to talk about with you today. I have knitting, needlepoint, quilting, and then I'm also going to talk about these boards. I've got one over here and one right behind me. So a lot to discuss. So let's just jump on in and start with my knitting. So the first project I want to talk about with you today is this. It is my Eken Sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. There it is. This is about how much I've got. I don't know if you can see. So this is a top-down sweater, knit top-down in worsted weight yarn. I am using Rowan Mode alpaca wool, and I believe the color is nougat. I will correct myself on the screen if I'm wrong. And just single strand. It's been super easy and fun to knit. I think last time you saw this about a month ago, I was like, I don't know, maybe 5 rows away from splitting for sleeves. So I feel like I've made pretty decent progress in the past 3 or so weeks. I have, I want to say 2 or 3 inches of stockinette left on the body before I do the ribbing, which is a pretty thick chunk of 2x2 rib that I really like. It's a split hem, which I am a massive fan of. I feel like sweaters that don't have a split hem, they kind of get a little grippy around my waist and it just doesn't look, or my hips, it just doesn't look that great. My hips are my widest part, so I'm a big fan of the split hem. And then once I do that, it's just the sleeves and then adding on the turtleneck, which I believe is also a 2x2 rib. That is my Eken sweater. I am loving it so far. I hope the yarn color is showing up. It's not a super cool tone brown, but it's not super warm. I think it's like a really good neutral brown. So that is my Eken sweater. Hopefully the next time you see this, which might be next week, the body will be finished. That's kind of my goal for the next week for this, is to finish the body and maybe have one of the sleeves started. We shall see. I'm not sure. And then my second knitting project is the Swallowtail Shawl by Evelyn A. Clark. And this is a free pattern on Ravelry. It has almost 13,000, 12,500 projects on Ravelry, which is wild. And this is something that I have been very interested in attempting for a very long time. And it always intimidated me, like cables. It just seemed way more complicated. Like I've always felt like, oh, maybe I don't quite have like the knitting skill to be able to do that. So I always kind of pushed these types of projects to the back burner. But a week ago, I was looking through my yarn. I found a bunch of my green Knitting for Olive mohair in merino in the color Pea Shoots, and I was like, I need to do something with this. I am not going to wear a sweater out of it. I already have that balaclava, and I think I've mentioned before, every time I look at it or I put it on, I feel like a worm. Something about it just feels like a garden worm. So I was like, you know what, I want to do something with this. I don't really care if it's a project that I end up loving, so let me try to knit a lace shawl. So I found this Swallowtail Shawl pattern. It is a pretty simple lace pattern, and I'm not that far into it, but it is so much simpler than I thought it would be. I thought this was going to be a very stressful experience, and so far it has not been. And I think for a while it will not be, because I am basically repeating the same pattern for I think like 15 or 16 rows, or not rows, but the same. I think you repeat the same 6-row repeat like 14 or 15 times. It's not as intimidating as I thought it would be, because you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, just increasing as you go and adding more. So I don't know if I have like the vocabulary to talk about lace knits right now, so I will just show you what I've got. So here it is. Again, not too much. I'm not sure how best to show this, maybe like that. So this pattern here, it's kind of like this like diamondy leafy pattern. This is the bulk of the shawl. Like the main center triangle is just this pattern, which is this little 6-row repeat, and you do increases and then you end up adding every time you do the 6-row repeat, you end up adding another leaf. So like it's like first round was this leaf, second round has 2 leaves, the third round will have 3, so on and so forth until you get to the end. And then once you finish that part, you, I guess, pick up along the edges and will knit this lace border that has these little like peaked bits to it. In the pattern, I believe she gave yardage for lace weight, fingering weight, and sport weight yarn. And with these 2 yarns, oopsies, with these 2 yarns held together, I believe I am kind of at that like cuspy border between fingering and sport weight. So I just made sure I had enough yardage for the sport weight, and I do. If I do end up running out, I'm not opposed to buying like more of this, and if it's a different dye lot and doesn't totally match, like I'm not going to be upset. I'm not sure if this is something I will actually like wear out in public. I could see it being more so something that I would kind of like wear at home in like March and April on like a slightly chilly day when I just want like a little light layer inside on the couch, but not like a full blanket or a quilt. So that's probably what this will mainly be used for, but who knows, we will see in a little bit. This though is I've only worked on it one day so far. I cast it on January 7th, I believe. I only knit on it for 3 hours maybe, and that's where I've gotten so far. So it is working up really quickly. That's one thing about lace that like, I guess I didn't expect. I didn't think it would work up so quickly, but it does, because it's so holy and gapey and you're doing all these yarn overs to get these holes, I guess, the lacy bits. So yeah, it is moving much faster than I anticipated. I'm thrilled about that. So I'm just going to keep chugging along on this when I can. It is a pattern though where it's not mindless like my Eken sweater. I can sit on the couch and watch a show and just kind of mindlessly knit on it. This one I do need to focus. So anytime where I have time and want to focus a little bit, I will definitely pick this one up and work on it. But I'm very excited to be doing this. I'm very proud of myself for attempting or knitting a lace shawl. I've never done lace work before, and that was kind of part of one of my 2026 making intentions, was to try new things and like be a beginner and make sure I'm always learning. And so here I am doing that. So yes, very, very proud of myself with this one. The Swallowtail Shawl, again, it's a free pattern on Ravelry. One thing I would recommend doing if you want to knit this is to put this 6-row repeat into a Google Doc, because she just tells you to add another one of these little leafy things on each end as you go. So it's not like round 1, like it's not fully written out, if that makes sense. So I, in a Google Doc, pasted it and wrote like row 13, and then I have the instructions for 13 of these little leafy bits, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. But I just like expanded it so it was fully written out rather than me having to like count and make sure I'm like, okay, I already did, like, okay, did I do 13 yet? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So hopefully that makes sense. But I think that has been helpful, because otherwise I'd be stopping every, I don't know, 4 stitches and counting and being like, okay, now I'm on my 9th, like, you know, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But that's something I did that has been helpful for me, at least. So if you are thinking of knitting this, that might be helpful for you too. That is that. That is my only other active knitting project right now. I only have the 2. I think 2 is a very happy spot for me to be, one mindless and one a bit more mindful. And that brings me on to Needlepoint, which has been basically my love the past 2 or so months. I have been obsessed with it. I've fallen back in love with it. I did do some needle pointing, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, where I did a few things, and again, I had like 3 or 4 months of like intense needlepoint focus, and that's kind of what I feel like I'm in right now, although I don't think it will die out anytime soon. My first and only finished needlepoint project is my 2026 stitch along canvas that I made. I have 2 videos on that if you are interested in stitching it. I designed it, painted the canvas, and stitched it. I have 2 videos kind of talking about that. So those will be linked below, but that is a finished with a lowercase f. I have not fully finished it yet, just it is stitched and off the stretcher bars. So it is on my little board behind me. I'm not sure if you can see it right there. And it's waiting to be fully finished, which I will self-finish it. I will finish it myself. So that is my first and only finished needlepoint project. The second project I want to talk about is one that I am nearly done with. I am really hoping to finish it by the end of the month, and that is my Statue of Liberty. Here it is. I, again, am obsessed with it. I love it so, so much. I haven't made too much progress on it since the last time I showed it. I did fully finish the base. Oh, will it focus? I did fully finish the base down here, and I have started the background. And I'm using, what am I using for the background? Oh, I don't remember what I'm using for the background. What thread I'm using for the background, but I am doing like, I guess is it a diagonal stitch? Diagonal Parisian stitch. I'm not 100% sure what it's called. I did the Parisian stitch for the background on my little 2026 board, and I loved it. 2026 canvas, and I loved it. So I decided to do it diagonally on the background of this, and I really like it. I think it adds some nice like texture and visual dimension without being too overwhelming or busy. I have modified my stitch fiddle design to be like the modifications that I did down here at the bottom. So I will try to upload that and put a Google Drive link to the PDF of it, I guess, down below in the description. So if you want to paint and stitch this too, you can. It is 18 mesh. I think it is, how is it, 9 by 7, 9 by 11, something, I don't know. I have all the info in this. I have all the info in the PDF that I will link down below. But yeah, this is my own design, and I'm going to continue this little series. I am currently working on a Brooklyn Bridge and a subway car, kind of similar idea with like the Christmas lights going around it. So hopefully by next Christmas I'll have maybe 4 or 5 little New York City landmark Christmas village statues. So yeah, very, very pleased with how this is going. Again, my goal is to have this off of the stretcher bars by the end of the month, which I think is totally doable. A lot of football this month, so that's a lot of stitching time for me. So that is my Statue of Liberty. That is the small update, progress update. But yes, if this is something that you did want to stitch, you've seen me talk about it before. The PDF to the, I guess, design is below, so you can paint your own and stitch it. So very, very thrilled with this one. As I think you know, as I think I've said about 1,000 times. And then my next, actually, this next one is probably closer to being finished than the Statue of Liberty, and that is my Grenada stamp. So here it is. This is again another, oh, will it focus? Another canvas I designed, painted, and I'm stitching myself. I have completely finished, not completely, I guess. I would say 90% finished the little like stampy decorative part in here inside this rectangle. All I have left is some of the palm tree, the sailboat boat bit, like the body of the sailboat, and some of like the white foam that's on like the edge of the ocean and like on the bottom of the sailboat. Like, oh, come on, focus. Like the little whitey bits there, and then the palm tree, and then the 17. So that's what's left to finish within the stamp. And then I am working on, I just started the pink border that's going around the stamp, and then I'll do the white bit that's like inside the roughly stamp bit. Then I will do the pink stamp edge, and I am going to knit, and I am going to stitch a larger border around the stamp. I think I want to do pink and green stripes, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe blue and maybe white and green. I don't have the PDF for this design linked below. Maybe I will eventually, but for now I'm not going to. But this is another one that I think I will have finished within the next few weeks. I have talked about it before. I stitched on this in Florida, which was really fun. That's where I started stitching on it. I think in that video I talk all about the threads I'm using. I painted it and I started stitching it. So if that interests you, you can go watch that video and I guess learn a little bit more about this guy. And I have 2 more needlepoint projects. I think both of these are going to be moved into hibernation for now because I really want to spend most of my time focusing on the 2 I just talked about. The first project that I wanted to hibernate is my Bowery Key. I'm frustrated. I decided to stitch our wedding date in the little part where it would say like the Bowery, or on this specific canvas, Chateau Marmont, as like the room number, because I think the Bowery actually doesn't say the Bowery Hotel. If I remember correctly, I think it says your room number on the key. So I wanted to do our wedding date, and I did, but I don't like how it looks. It just looks so flat in comparison to the rest of the key. I'm just not happy with how it looks. So I am taking a little break from this one for now. I do have the dark red that I will be using in the rest of the tassel, so I could go in and continue stitching, but I think I want to put a pause on this for a little bit while I decide what to do about the numbers. I may just rip it out and not do anything. I may put our initials instead. I'm not 100% sure what I feel like doing. So I'm gonna think on that for a little bit, but this one will be going into hibernation. This is the only like professionally painted canvas that I have ever done, and I do really like it. It's by Rooney & Stitch. It's the Chateau Marmont key. I've talked about it before, and I am turning it into the Bowery Hotel key because I got married at the Bowery Hotel and I want it to be like a little wedding Christmas ornament one day. But I am just not really thrilled with this little modification that I made. The 3224, that's our wedding date, March 2nd, 2024. I just don't love how it looks. So this will be going into hibernation for, I don't know how long, maybe until I finish these other 2 canvases I just talked about, and then I will pull it out again and make a decision about whether or not to rip out our date or to just like leave it and call it a day, because at the end of the day, I want this to be an ornament on my Christmas tree. It's not going to be seen all the time. It's not like out on public display 24/7, and it's going to be an ornament. So I don't know, things to think about, if it is worth it for me to rip that out or not. But yeah, that is an update on that one there. That is my longest needlepoint project so far right now. I started this one in late October. I bought it, I want to say October 25th, maybe somewhere around there. So I've been working on that for a long time, and it's not that big of a canvas. So I think it might just be worth it for me to put it down for a few weeks, finish the Statue of Liberty and Grenada stamp, and then come back to this with a bit more of a clear mind and a little less, like a few projects off of my what am I gonna say? A few projects off of the stretcher bars and just like, you know, come to it with a clear mind. So that is my Bowery Key into hibernation. It will go, which for me, it doesn't go anywhere. It's staying in my hobby bag. I just won't take it out and actively work on it for a few weeks. And the last needlepoint project I have for you today is another project I designed, painted, and am now stitching, and that is this Sea Holly coaster canvas, I guess. There'll be 4 coasters. I think they're about 4 inches by 4 inches. So they'll be like pretty oversized coasters. They might be 4.5 by 4.5 actually. And I am stitching this up. This is 14 mesh canvas, which I had it. I don't know where I got it. I want to say Amazon, but I just had it sitting around. I don't think 14 mesh is very common, but I don't know, it's been fun to work on so far. It's just very Christmassy. It feels like I don't want to work on anything too Christmassy. I know my Statue of Liberty is a little Christmassy, but it's also not. It's also like New York-y. This is just like pure Christmas, and I'm not over Christmas, but I don't want to work on Christmas right now. So this will also be going into hibernation, but I'm loving how this is turning out. I am using Neon Rays Plus, I guess, in, I don't know what the colors are. NP118 is the red, and then the green is NP105. So there they are. And then for the background, I am using Vineyard Silk Merino in the color Buttercream. I am using a merino wool, and I believe these sparkly ones are like a rayon blend. Because these are coasters, I want them to be kind of hard wearing, and merino wool is pretty hard wearing. I think this rayon blend will be hard wearing. I do not want to put these into acrylics. I want like the raw material, I guess. I just want to put a cup or a mug on top of the raw material. I don't want them to be like protected. So if they get a little messy and beat up, that is okay. They will only be used at Christmas time, so hopefully they won't get too messy or too beat up. That's why I chose the materials I chose. And I also chose to do a background stitch called Nabucco, I think is how you say it. There's a really loud bus going by, so sorry about that. But I read the Nabucco, N-O-B-U-K-O stitch is a really hard wearing stitch. It is so confusing for me to stitch. I don't know why. I feel like I am definitely messing it up. I haven't really gotten a hang of it so far at all, and I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think I'm 6 rows into it, and it's just like not clicking. So that's also something where I'm not sure if I just want to go back and rip it up and maybe just do Parisian stitch or something a little more simple, easy to memorize, because I am doing this 4 times. Or my other thought is, because it is 4 coasters, maybe I will do 4 different background stitches, a different one on each, so they're all slightly different to give some variety, both like visual variety for when they're all out on a table, and to give myself some variety as well. So that is something I'm thinking about. I will probably pick these up again, like same with the Bowery Key. I'll probably pick these up again in a few months when I finish the Grenada Stamp and the Statue of Liberty, just like with the Bowery Key. But I'm just not in the mood to stitch on anything super Christmassy right now, and I'm frustrated with the Nabucco stitch. So that is that one, and that's my last needlepoint whip or project that I am working on. I have been loving needlepoint recently. I'm really happy I picked it up again in October, and it seems like there's like a huge resurgence in needlepoint popularity right now, which is wonderful. I'm really hoping to get some of my friends into needlepoint or scrapbooking, which is a whole other conversation for another video. But I'm hoping to get some of them into one of those 2 hobbies, because I would love to have like people to sit and like chat and stitch with, or scrapbook with and chat with, so while we do that. So anyways, that's all my needlepoint stuff. I do have a question. I don't know if anyone knows, I am wondering if there are any needlepoint apps or websites like Ravelry where you can upload your projects, project notes, what threads you're using, maybe where you bought a canvas, where you bought the threads, if you designed a canvas, any of that. I know needlepoint canvases are predominantly physical items, whereas knitting patterns are digital downloads, but I would love some sort of like place online to store and document all of my needlepoint things. I really like using Ravelry for that, even if it's just like uploading a picture of what I knit and writing some notes. I know they're all stored in one place. So I'm really looking for something like that for needlepoint. So if you know of anything, I would love if you could please share or let me know how you organize and like digitally track your needlepoint projects. I have been tracking them in a little notebook, and then I also tried on Notion, but I don't know, I can't quite get that right yet for myself either. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. And I think that's everything for needlepoint. So that brings me to my last category, which is quilting. And I have 3 quilts to talk about today. So the first quilt I'm going to talk about is my Homestreet Quilt. I have been working on this quilt for so long. This was supposed to be a Christmas gift to my parents, but it is not with them. It is with me because I have not finished hand quilting it. I forgot it here over Christmas break, so I did not get to work on it in Vermont, but I have been stitching a little bit on it. I think I have 3 or 4 hand quilted rows out of 27, 28 that I plan on doing. So slowly but surely chugging along on that one. That is the only update I have for that. I'm not setting a timeline or a deadline for myself. I tried to do that and I just did not stick to it. So that one it'll be finished when it's finished, but my parents know that it is a gift for them and that I am working on it. I'm hoping to go back up to Vermont sometime in February, so maybe I will finish it by then or finish it while I'm up there in February so I can leave it up there. That would be great because quilts do take up like quite a lot of space, especially in like a New York City apartment. Like they're noticeable, they're big. So it would be great to have that out of the apartment soon because I have a second quilt that I'm working on that is fully quilted. I am just attaching the binding, and that is my Gingham Quilt. This is just, I made it. I mean, it's a simple gingham quilt. I think you could buy patterns for it, but it's also something you can easily DIY or determine like the pattern yourself, which is what I did. I started this quilt in April of 2022. That is so long ago. Is that almost 4 years ago? Yeah, that's almost 4 years ago. So that is wild. I finished the quilt top in like okay, I don't quite remember what I was saying. The street sweeper came by and there was an ambulance, but anyways, I've been working on this gingham quilt and it was fully quilted. I finished the quilt top in April of 2022 when I started it. It took me like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks to finish the top. And then it took me about 2 years to quilt it. I machine quilted it. It was very unpleasant. My machine is not meant for, well, actually it might be meant for machine quilting, but not quilts this large. It is 108 inches by 108 inches square. So it is quite big. So yeah, it took me a very long time to machine quilt it. I kept it at my parents' house, so I was only really working on it when I was in Pennsylvania, where they live, and I saw it over Christmas break, and I realized all I had left was the binding. So I brought it back with me, and I have been stitching the binding down. I'm not going to show you the back because my machine quilting is quite atrocious, like, ooh, not good. But I have been hand stitching the binding down on the back here. I will show you. Please do not judge my machine quilting. We're not going to look too closely at it, but we've been stitching the binding down. I've been stitching the binding down. I have 2 sides fully finished, and I have 1 side I think I am a quarter of the way through. So I'm almost there. I really think I'll finish it within the next few days. It is quite chilly here, so it's been a nice project to have on my lap to work on. I want to then wash it and air dry it, and I don't quite know what I'm going to do with it, but I do want to keep it here in the city. I really love it. I'm very proud of it. My first quilt I ever made, I gave to my parents' dog. She sits on it. They have like a window seat, and it is laid out on the window seat, and that's where she sits on the window seat to kind of like protect it from her fingernails and dog hair and whatnot. So this is the second quilt that I guess I made or worked on, and I would like to keep it for myself. So not totally sure what its use will be, if it'll just be like a couch quilt, if it'll go on the bed. It also kind of feels a little, I don't know if I've showed it. It looks like this. It also feels a little picnic blankety to me. Something about it makes me think of like strawberries and like the summer. So maybe it will become a picnic blanket, but I think I have like 4 picnic blankets. I don't need any more. So we will see what this turns into. I have no clue. But I love it very, very much. It is 3 different fabrics from Connecting Threads. And then the binding and backing are both Kona cottons. Oh, that is everything about my little gingham quilt here, which I think I'm gonna keep on my lap right now. I like having it down here. It's soft and comfy. And then the last quilt I'm working on is another quilt that I'm kind of like DIYing. I'm using 2 block patterns, which I cannot remember the names of the blocks. One is like a simple star. Is it an Ohio star? And then one is it Jacob's ladder? Or an Irish chain, I can't remember. But it is kind of like a red, white, and blue Americana vibes type of quilt. I really love like the colonial quilts and these kind of like red, white, and blue like American quilty quilts. I don't know why, they just feel quilty. I don't know. So I do have a bunch of red fabric and blue fabrics and like creamy beigey fabrics, and I was maybe 6 months ago going through my quilt stash and I saw I had so many of these colors, so I was like, oh, I should make a quilt with them. And I decided to do this quilt little design here that I drew up on my iPad, and I've just been chugging away. I think I finished all of the blocks. I may have 2 or 3 red blocks left to do, but I'm almost done, and then I will be able to piece them all together. And with this one, I will be hand quilting it as well. I have a design in my head of how I want to hand quilt it. I want to follow like the shapes, like I want to go around the stars with the thread, or like quilt around the stars, and then within the little red blocks I want to go around the red rectangles, so around the blue stars and the red, not rectangles, red squares, for my quilting. So that is my plan with that. Again, no idea when this will be done. That is everything. Those are all of my current whips that are not in hibernation. I do have things I've talked about on here before that I am hibernating for now, and along with the 2 needlepoint projects that I mentioned. You won't see those again until they come out of hibernation. That's kind of like the stitchy stuff I wanted to talk about. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is my boards here that I mentioned before. So I will pull them down and show you. I'm gonna do this board first, and then I'll go on to this board. So these boards are how I am planning on planning my makes in 2026. And they are kind of like this ever rotating vision board, mood board, project board. I'm not 100% sure what I want to call it, but I have one for wearables and one for like my decorative or home good items. So this is my wearables board. So it has some fabric swatches and some knit gauge swatches on it. I mentioned in my 2026 making intentions that I want to learn how to sew my own clothing, And to do that, I want to start with nightgowns. So I have 3 fabric swatches on here. I've got these 2 blue floral swatches down at the bottom that I want to make nightgowns out of. I have this bug fabric swatch at the top that I want to make a nightgown out of. And those I think will be my first 3 clothing sewing projects. Fingers crossed, hopefully. I really want to work on that. I really want to try that. I have my goal dress fabric on here, which is this red gingham fabric. I found this little like vintage drindle style dress sewing pattern on Etsy that I bought and downloaded. So that is kind of like what I'm working towards right now. That's like my big clothing sewing goal. So that is what the fabric is. And then the 2 knit swatches are sweaters that I want to knit when I finish my Eken sweater. So the first is this white one down here. This is a Knit Picks cotton merino blend. And this is a swatch from a sweater that I started back in August or September, which is the toffee sweater by, is it Cozy Knits, I believe. I put it down because I'm knitting in all white and I'm always eating little things on my fingers. Like I was eating blackberries yesterday while I was knitting my Eken sweater. I would not be doing that while knitting this white one. But I really want it for the spring and summer. So when I finish the Eken sweater, I will probably pick this one back up and keep going. I really like how it's working up. I really like the pattern itself. It's nothing against the pattern or even the yarn. Well, I guess it is against the yarn. It's the color of the yarn that I chose, but I do want this white oversized polo sweater. It's kind of like a Baba inspired sweater for me. So that is that one. And then this swatch is, okay, my camera died, but I'm back. This one appears for the Michaela sweater, which is a sweater that I also really want to knit and I have all of the yarn for. So when I finish something that I'm working on, I already have a few projects, 2 knitting projects at least, ready to go. And these are from Stash. So my goal is that this will kind of help me stay on top of my stash. So for example, once I finish the Eken sweater, let's say I start the Michaela sweater, I will knit another swatch from Stash with yarn from Stash for a project I want to do, and I will pop it up here so that when I finish the Michaela sweater or the toffee sweater, I'll have another project lined up in queue using Stash yarn. So that is kind of my goal and my hopes and my dreams for this board. I hope that it will help me manage my stash a lot better. So that is my first board. This is my more, I'm not sure if it'll fit fully in the screen, my more wearables board here. I didn't talk about this stripe fabric. I don't really have any plans for it right now, but I like it, so I put it up there. My second board is my more home decor or decorative homey things like non-wearables. So quilts and needlepoint, really. Up on the top left, I have my 2 needlepoint projects that I want to finish. I want to learn how to finish them myself. So they are pinned up here, ready to be finished whenever I get the supplies and materials that I need and have time to sit down and do that. And then I also have fabric swatches for the 3 quilts that I'm working on. So the Gingham Quilt that I just showed you and talked about, this is a little swatch from that project. This is my Homestreet Quilt. This is an extra block from that project that I guess I made an extra one by mistake. I don't know how I ended up with this, but I have this one. And then these are 3 of the many fabrics that I'm using in that kind of Americana type quilt that I mentioned as well today. This is more so just to remind me of what quilts I am working on, what I have, because my quilting things are hidden. They don't live in my hobby bag. They live in a box on a shelf in a closet. So, or at least like these things do, like when I'm doing blocks. These 2 are living out on a chair right now, very visible, but these quilty projects are hidden. So it reminds me that I do have quilts I am working on and things I am working on that are not as visible. So that is kind of what that is a reminder of. This is a reminder again of things I need to finish. And then I also have a little list of my needlepoint whips and up next. And the project that I want to do next is my Japan stamp. So once I design and paint that, I will pop it right here on this board. So it will be ready to be stitched when I have an open project bag and when I want to start stitching it. Or if I buy a needlepoint canvas, I'll also pop that up on here. So yeah, that is my second board. That is my more decorative homey board. And again, I'm just hoping that will help me, they will help me manage my stash a bit better. They will remind me of what I have sitting around available to use. So I buy less yarn, buy less fabric. That would be great. That's the goal. So those are my two boards, and that's kind of how I'm planning on planning for the year. So as I finish something, I will take it off of the board and put something new in its place, to just kind of help me cycle through what I own and remind me of what I have and what I have in queue, especially for the knitting, because I sit on Ravelry for hours thinking about projects I want to knit, thinking about what yarn I might want to use it in. Then I spend like an hour shopping online for yarn. Then I go to the yarn store, and I don't need to do that when I have so much yarn that I can use. I have at least 4 or 5 sweater quantities worth of yarn here in my apartment. So I would like to use at least those 4 or 5 sweater quantities before I go out and buy more sweater quantities worth of yarn. So those are my two boards. That's kind of what they're there for, what I'm using them for. They will kind of cycle and rotate as the year moves on and as I continue making things, because I'm not like planning like a make 9 or, you know, really like planning out what I want to knit throughout the year. It's just kind of gonna be planned on these, cycled through. So kind of like mood board, what I'm working on type of board things, I guess. So that is everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.